Well, joining us today on Leadcast is Mr. Rakshit Hargave, Chief Executive Officer of Birla Opus at Aditya Birla Group. With a remarkable career spanning top global brands like Nivea, Unilever, Nestle, and Domino's Pizza, he brings deep expertise in building consumer businesses across geographies. I mean, from leading Nivea's operations across Asia, ANZ, and Africa, to pioneering the iconic 30 minutes of free promise at Domino's in India, Mr. Hargave has consistently driven innovation and impact. An alumnus of FMS Delhi and IIT BHU, he now leads Birla Opus into its next chapter of growth and transformation.
I've had a simple rule across all the roles that I've done in my career. Create value that lasts and create brands that people trust.
You know, that's exactly why I wish to chat with you today, Rakshit, to find out truly in this fast-changing, fast-evolving world, how do you make that happen?
Why not, Brian? We can have a chat.
You ready for Leadcast?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
I'm excited and ready as
well.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions maybe just to kind of get to know you better, Rakshit. Early mornings or late nights?
Well, actually, sometimes I burn the candle at both ends. But if you ask me, late nights.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. One word for the Birla Opus launch?
Absolutely smashing.
Yeah. I've got two reasons to say yeah, actually. The hardest part, and this is an interesting one, the hardest part about building from scratch that no one warns you about.
Is the uncertainty. Because the objective is clear, but the output of the input that you put is unpredictable because it's the first time. And hence you have to take it along with you. Sometimes you're doing fine, sometimes you are trailing, but the journey is long, so you need to have that courage and perseverance to manage the uncertainty.
I suppose that's what makes it all the more interesting
Yes,
as well.
it makes it all the more interesting and challenging.
So, Rakshit, starting something from scratch, I would imagine is always a big leap, especially when you're, starting something in a large group, such as the Aditya Birla Group. Now, there are unknowns, I would imagine. There are surprises, those sink or swim moments, which are the moments that have stayed with you?
It's obviously very interesting what you're asking. So for me, because I'm a relative newcomer to the group, but I thankfully did not take much time to understand how the group works. But looking at the enormity of Birla Opus that we were building, and at that time we did not even have the name Opus. What was very clear at the beginning, that we need to get a good team on board. And the team was not going to be an ordinary team because it was a full team. And I think I was like the 200th employee. Today we are close to 5,000. What was critical in the first year was like we were hiring maybe the 300 most important people who would run the business. And the time that we had to make those choices was very limited. So there were days when I was interviewing 5, 6 candidates.
Wow.
And we had to make a choice. And we had to make a choice based on both what we were seeing in the interview and also based on our gut and instinct that, will this person deliver? Will this person last? Is he going to be a fit for Opus? So I think that time was pretty critical. We knew that if we get more of our people wrong, then we're going to sink. And if we have to swim, then we need to get the right people on board. So that was a period when, there was a bit of challenge. But I think we all did our tasks. We chose people. We went with gut wherever we needed to make a choice. And the best part is that majority of the people, in fact, most of the people whom we hired 3-4 years back, they're all there and they're all doing a great job.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. And this, I would imagine, was an ongoing challenge for the first couple of years before you all really hit the road running.
Yes, it was an ongoing challenge.
Yeah. Is there any one moment that stands out when I talk about being tested?
We had a couple of moments when I thought that we were really being tested. One was we had a lot of confidence on our R&D, and we were doing our product testing. And I think we were very clear that if we have to win in the market, one of the big differentiators is going to be, are our products really great? And they had two testing moments. One was when we tested our products with some 500 contractors across 12 cities in India, which no paint brand has done. And I think there was an amazing level of relief when we won all the segments in blind tests and all the contractors. So that gave us a lot of confidence, but that was a period when we were kept our fingers crossed. Second was when we started manufacturing, which was about 15, 16 months back, or maybe even if you take a look at Ludhiana, we started manufacturing towards the end of December 2023. Invariably, when you have such large manufacturing and when you manufacture for the first time, you usually have some product issues. You have challenges in first batches, or you go to the market. And I think we were keeping our fingers crossed. But credit to the manufacturing and project team that we've basically got everything right first time, and nothing's worked. So that was again a tough moment, which we were keeping our fingers crossed that what happens. Do we hear some contractors or do we hear some customers complaining after 2 months or 3 months that, listen, this is incorrect or this is not working well? But I think phenomenal. So I think we were tested because our product, the quality that we have of Opus is a large part of what we are doing. But I think that was overcome.
My goodness, I can feel the heat even listening to it in retrospect, Rakshit. And it, prompts me to ask you a question, another question that, a lot of us rely on instinct, maybe. Some of us rely on people around us, for the right answers in moments like this. And for some of us, it's sheer persistence. Your quick thought on that.
So, you can't isolate the three. The fact is, you have to look at data because data creates the back end for you to be able to take a decision. You have to keep persevering because what's important is that you should not take something for a period of time and then give it up and say that I want to do it again. Because if you've applied your mind, you need to give it time. But ultimately, many times, I think the difference between strategic or good management is that you do have to base yourself a bit in your instinct and gut. Because data will throw A, B, C, D in front of you. But ultimately, when you make a choice, you will realize that things are not black and white. There are always shades of gray.
Sure.
And that's where you have to apply your instinct.
Sure. Oh, interesting. When you're building within a conglomerate, like I mentioned earlier, there's a risk of losing that fresh energy when you're starting up something, How do you keep that spark alive? A lot of people struggle to keep that spark alive, especially, like I said, when they're navigating scale and, the structure of such a large conglomerate.
Okay. So I think, when you're building an organization within Aditya Birla Group, large conglomerate, many large companies, old companies, and we setting up Opus, one of the big challenges with us was that how do you keep ourselves fresh? And I think the first credit needs to go to our chairman because he gave a very direct message at the beginning that please create the culture of your organization as you deem fit for a new age company which is starting from scratch. And I think that gave us a lot of ideas. One of the first things we did, and I did personally, I came and told everybody in the company that nobody is going to call me sir. And there's going to be a penalty if anybody calls me sir. And I think that broke a lot of ice. Today, most of the people call me by first name, which also generally is not very common in the group. Secondly, I said that my room where I sit is open to all when I'm traveling. So anyway, being a startup, we were short on space. We had fewer rooms and people needed meeting rooms. I made it clear, when I'm not there in my room, when I'm traveling, please use my meeting room. It can be used by anybody as a meeting room. Obviously, the secretary was managing. The objective was not to give 6 seats more. Obviously, that's helpful. But I think these kind of messages really make the people believe that the team that is being created is an equal team
Right.
And people are not stuffed and people are not bound and people are easily accessible. Anybody can enter my room if I'm not busy in a meeting and totally accessible. And I'm very happy that our whole Paints leadership team follows the same principle. They are widely accessible, mixing with the people. So I think that set the tone for the culture that we wanted to create, which creates a lot of freshness. Add to that routine town hall connects, a very great onboarding program for freshers, including both technical, personal, organizational, kind of inundation. How do you get the license to work in Opus? Rewards and recognitions, periodic connects. So we really are a 5,000 plus organization, and if you actually add the number of people who work, for us from an outsourced level, we have more than 10,000 people. But we have tried to create and retain the soul of a startup where we are all friends at the end of the day, and I'm just first among equals.
I love that. I mean, I know of organizations pretty much like you just said, where everyone is a colleague. There's never an employee, and yet they understand the importance of the organizational chart and, of course, decision making and the likes. Fantastic. I mean, in paints, correct me if I'm wrong, Rakshit, you don't often see brands reimagining the way people shop for color. I mean, your paint studios aren't just outlets. I mean, look around us. They're experiences. Tell us a little bit about that thought.
See, what was very clear to us is that if we have to make a breakthrough in paints, you can't be following the formula which already exists in the market. So you have to make a difference. You have to do some disruption. One of the thoughts was building paint studios and company experience stores. Why was that? So a few reasons. If you take a look at the overall retail development which has happened in India in the last 20 years, whether it's coffee or whether it's bathroom fittings, you see that the retail development was at a higher level. But in paints, the retail development index was relatively low. It was very dealer-centric and it was very transaction-centric. So we wanted to create, and that's not only with our experience store, but also with more than 600 franchise stores which we have operational, that how do you create a place where consumers get to answer and question all the questions that they have regarding paints, and you get consultation, and at one-stop shop you see the whole range, so that coming to a paint store becomes an event for the family, where you can actually come, be comfortable, a place where designers and architects, not the really big ones,
right,
but the mid-sized ones and the upcoming ones, can actually call their place their own, use it for their customer meetings. So the idea was that you create an ecosystem which shows where the brand is, it leads the brand, becomes the talking point in the market, but also does a lot of marketing. And on top of that, our stores also sell paints.
Right. So it's a kind of get people in and have them completely immersed in what they're going in for. And that creates courage of conviction when they're buying. Interesting. Another very interesting point that you did, kind of throw a little light on earlier, Rakshit, was that you had 200 plus colleagues in sales that you recruited and spent a couple of years with them before you actually launched the product in the market. I mean, what was going through your mind at that time? And looking back, in hindsight, what was the difference that made when you finally hit the market?
So I think, everything that we did was with a network. And because we were new to paints, we needed a sales team on the ground much before we actually started selling products to understand market, to map dealers, to map contractors. So actually, even before we sold the first can of paint, we had mapped all the 90-odd thousand dealers in India. We had geotagged them. We had taken all their details. We had onboarded them on our IT system before selling the first can of paint, which means that when we launched, when we opened the floodgates, we were actually ready to march at 100 kilometers per hour. And that made a big difference.
I'm sure it did. Wow. I mean, and to top that, we're talking 6 state-of-the-art plants, Rakshit, all zero liquid discharge. adding a big chunk to India's paint capacity from day one. Why go with that big that early? I mean, there are very many people who live with that conviction of start off and then build.
So I think again, the strategic direction and the thought coming from the chairman's office was also absolutely aligned with this. But I'll give you some principles why I think it really is working and is going to work for us. Paint dealers are very difficult to change brands. If you take a look at the history, the largest paint company in the world entered India about 15 years back, but they did not put local manufacturing, and they are nearly out. If you have to give an intent message to the market that you're here to stay, you need to show by putting your feet on the ground. And I think the 6 manufacturing locations gives you capacity, which gives you some kind of right towards share of business that you can develop. It gives a message to the extremely large dealer and contractor community that this company is here to stay. They're here to stay literally forever. So you can trust them. So if you have to trust on the new brand, you can trust them because they have manufacturing, they have the whole range. Because for dealers, it is extremely difficult where you start dealing with a paint company which is new, which has only half the range. Also, most of them are not able to stock all the products because the number of SKUs are large. So you have this history of ordering on the same day and expecting delivery within 4 to 6 hours.
Right.
That can only happen when you have the full assortment and you have large number of depots. Otherwise, there is no reason for these paint dealers to move away from the top 2 or 3 players because they are already serving them. So I think as Opus, setting up 6 manufacturing plants, absolutely modern, automated, zero liquid discharge, because we are in the forefront of sustainability. Modern plants with automation means that we have a lot of efficiency in terms of number of people who are working there. And our whole range was made available to India within 6 to 7 months of launch across 140 depots. And that could have happened only with 6 plants. And they also cut down your logistic cost because your center of gravity for each region is mapped to the closest factory. So I think all that was thought through. Obviously, it's a big capex you put, but I think the market acknowledges that Birla Opus is here to stay.